Okay, good morning, Ian. How are you?
Hi, Tony. How's it going?
Perfect. My name is Tony Gonzalez. I'm from This Is Rock, an Spanish magazine, but
Okay.
I'm also a member of Hush magazine and the Deep Purple Spanish fan club.
Oh, really? Fantastic. I'm nice to speak to you.
So we are here talking because Matching Head Super Deluxe Edition will be available
Mm.
on March 29. And the first question any Deep Purple fans were asked him is, what could we find in this edition that make it different than others?
Well, it's been revamped, it's been remixed and remastered, and the packaging is absolutely to die for. It's beautiful. Um, the remix is always a difficult issue, but the thing is, I think the idea is to bring it to a new audience, and so Roger and I sat down when we listened and thought, well, this is nothing like the original, but then again, we had to judge it on what it is, not what it was, and so we're happy with it, very happy.
We need to come back to those times, and I would like that you remember, for example, the night the casino was burned, you were there. It was a situation that you need to run for your life. What do you remember for that night?
Well, actually, it was all quite calm. I was sitting. I went into the theater. It was the last night before they closed, and we took over to use it as a recording studio. And I wanted to watch the show because in Frank Zappa in the band was Flo and Eddie from the Turtles. Absolutely fantastic voices. So I was getting off on that, and then over my right shoulder, I heard this pop, and it was two flares went into the back of the room, and it caught fire pretty quickly. Frank told everyone to get out, and have you got your speaker on, mate? I'm having trouble with the sound here. And Claude Nobbs was absolutely brilliant. He went down into the kitchens to bring out some kids that had gone the wrong way. But there was no panic, no. We weren't running for our lives. It was all well controlled, and everyone was out. We watched the whole thing burn down from a distance. We went to the Hotel Eden au Lac, a little further along Lake Leman, Lake Geneva, and watched this incredible scenario as the wind from the mountains came down and blew the smoke across the lake. And that's why the title came, Smoke on the Water.
Yes.
So it's a long story, but it's all encompassed in the lyrics of the song.
And Claude found the pavilion to start recording Matching Head, but the band didn't like it. My question is, was it you who complained for the pavilion? And what do you remember from the pavilion sessions?
Oh, I don't remember anything about that. We went somewhere and it didn't work, and then we went somewhere else to a hotel, and I wasn't really involved in that. I just left it up to the guys, to the roadies and the technical people. But I don't remember much about the pavilion. They're perfectly good buildings, but you've got to remember Montreux is a summer resort. So in the winter, in the wintertime, everything shuts down. And so it becomes, instead of a really vibrant resort, it turns into a sleepy town. And so this music, I guess, and late at night, was waking everyone in the town up. So it wasn't soundproof, the pavilion, so we had to get out. That's all I remember, really, that the noise was escaping. So we moved on to a hotel, and then it was much better.
Yes, you know that there are tons of articles talking about Matching Head, this period of your life. But tell me, after all these years, do you have memories that you wouldn't like to share with your fans, and nobody knows, or everything is done, is told?
I think pretty much everything is in the public domain now. Occasionally I remember things we have. Oh yeah, do you remember that when we're having a drink or something with the guys? But I think everything's in the public domain. If you ask me something specific, I can probably recall it. But no, the story is well known, and I think the most interesting thing about this was the at the end of the session, when Martin Birch, our engineer, said we're 7 minutes short of a record. An album in those days on vinyl had to be 38 minutes, 19 minutes per side. That's the optimum length. And we were 7 minutes short. And so we had to come up with something. And Smoke on the Water was not written yet. It was just the riff. And that was a kind of sound check that we had recorded. And so we wrote the biographical story of the making of Machine Head in this song. So it became really a spare track. It was just a filler track at the time. We liked it. And when we kind of forgot about it and then went back on the road, and when the record was released, we're playing Smoke on the Water. They had some single, I can't even remember it, never before released, which was ridiculous. And so we took it on the road, and then the guy called Russ Shaw, who worked for Warner Brothers in Los Angeles, came along to the show and saw the reaction of the crowd to Smoke on the Water, which was amazing. They loved it. And so he went back and looked at the album. It's 7 minutes long. Well, no wonder it's not been played on the radio. So he did an edit to 3 minutes 15, and boom, it got played, and they haven't stopped playing it since.
Were there any songs that were particularly difficult to record?
No, I don't think so. I think everything went pretty smoothly. No, it was pretty straightforward, really.
Now, Machine Head is widely considered one of the most influential albums in rock history. Tell me, what aspect do you think make it so special and enduring?
Oh boy, I don't know. You know, when you're a writer and a musician, you don't think about the commercial aspects at all. And so when you stand back a little few years later and you realize how much of it was a combination of music and fortune, we were lucky to be just, wow, there's some horrible noises on this line. There was, we were very lucky to be around at that time because everything was expanding. And so we'd established some kind of interest already, and we were pretty busy on the live circuit. We were doing lots of live work, and so we had a following, and they picked it up. I think, you know, right place, right time. We're lucky, really, I think. But the music had something to do with it, obviously, but it was breaking new ground. There wasn't much around like the sort of things that we were doing. And the other thing was, it wasn't just all, I mean, hard rock for me embraced the gentler side of things as well. So it wasn't all screaming and yelling, you know.
But not only the impact that Machine Head has made in rock history, is the impact that maybe the original release of Machine Head impact on Deep Purple's music and career. How do you think this album has influenced the evolution of the band and its legacy in the music industry?
Well, you can analyze it like that. I don't think we've ever looked at things that way. So I'll try and give you an answer that I've never had to give before, because we just don't look at things that way. The point is that there are some songs on Machine Head that were so wonderful for live performance, and I think they were sustainable. So we're talking about Pictures of Home, Highway Star, Lazy, Smoke on the Water, etc. And so those songs have become a staple in the live show, and around which we can introduce new songs and obscure songs and improvisations and all the other aspects of the act that we're known for. So it was really like a keystone, a cornerstone that has been a great support for all the other material that we've written.
Now that you mention Lazy, Lazy is one of my favorite songs of all time. And just the first time I listened to this song, I imagined that the lyrics maybe wasn't needed in this song, but maybe you consider that it's necessary. And you have a verse in the lyric that say, you don't have no money, you don't have no bread. Do you remember how did you get this idea? Because in English grammar, you don't have no money is not correct. Tell me.
Oh, pardon me. Oh, Lordy. Well, sometimes you have to be a little flexible when you're writing lyrics because it's called poetic license. And I think that's very funny. Okay. So, no, I can't remember. Bread, of course, is money. And, you make things fit. And so I wouldn't say ain't, A-I-N apostrophe T, in conversation, but I use it a lot in the music because it's a short, snappy, and it sounds better than it's not. Anyway, we fool around with sounds and textures and vowels and consonants, and which are used for different reasons. Consonants we use a lot for percussive value, and the vowels we use when we're doing perhaps more melodic sections. But that's an interesting point. Yeah, incorrect grammar. I'm so sorry.
Let me tell you.
That's a good.
Let me tell you.
That's a good one.
Yes, I'm a teacher, and when I teach the students, I play lazy and I say, "You never say this in English."
Correct. Okay, well, I'm glad you got some control over
it. Ian, what role do you think Machine Head plays in the context of Deep Purple discography? Do you consider it's a turning point in the band career, or they were in Rock and Fireball the real milestones?
Well, I think it's part of a natural evolution. I think for me, Deep Purple in Rock was the definitive breakthrough. I mean, that was a statement. That was the first album that happened when Roger Glover and I joined Deep Purple, not just as a bass player and a singer, but as a songwriting team, because that's what we've been doing prior to joining. So it was a major, major turnaround, I think, with Deep Purple, without them losing that essence of the musicality that John Lord, Ritchie Blackmore, and Ian Pace gave. And I think Roger and Ian Pace have proved to turn out to be one of the best rhythm sections in any rock band of all time. So it was in rock, I think, was as the real starting point. After that, we did in the industry, there's a well-known joke about the dreaded second album, because of course everyone wants to do something different on the second album, and everyone in the record labels are screaming and saying, no, we want more of the same, and in the media. But of course, you've got a lot to say, and I think it's very good that we got out Fireball, because that brought out the funkier side of the band. And Deep Purple is a wonderful complexity to it, because we had to, if you're going to be an artist, it's incumbent upon you to be expressive. That's all. Just be expressive, and then you can call yourself an artist. So I think the idea that we had this band, and it was John Lord with his orchestral composition and jazz organ, Jimmy Smith's jazz organ, Ian Pace, big band swing, Roger Glover, all things folk, and Ritchie with all his rock session playing and experience across the board, and my background in pretty much rock and roll and church choir, church music. So to get all that into a bundle and make music from it, it was quite fascinating. So needless to say, the texture and dynamics of any album were quite diverse. And so we had to get that out. And then I suppose it all came together for Machine Head, the third album, which gave us as I said earlier, the keystone for whatever happened next. And then, of course, we all grew up and things started going wrong on a personal level. So you can't cater for that. It happens in life.
So, taking account that the original Machine Head was recorded in 1972, was there a moment that you hate the success of Machine Head, Smoke on the Water, or any of the songs?
No. Oh my God, no! I get down and I thank heavens for it. I've done. I must have sung those songs many times, and I was talking with Pavarotti after I sang with him a couple of times, and he said, "Ian, I'm so jealous of you because I heard you sing Smoke on the Water 6 or 7 times now, and every time it's different." you're either pushing it or laid back, or your expression is different, your phrasing is different. You put a little twist here and there, and sometimes the band pushes or drags and whatever. It's always different. And if I changed my original interpretation of any of my famous arias for the sake of freshening it up, I would be crucified by the fans and by the media, and by the critics. So it's always fresh, and no, it means it's very vivid. You know, that you sing a song like that about an event like that, and you don't have to try very hard to sort of get yourself sort of in situ, so to speak. You're right there every night, back in Montreux.
And I was thinking, for example, when you started a solo career in the 70s, I imagine the audience asking for Purple Sun, Smoke on the Water. How did you deal with that?
Well, it's not isolated. It's part of life. It's part of growing up. And it's part of maturing. It's part of evolving. So it's very difficult. When you're a kid, you can write about anything. Your frustration, your teenage angst, and all of those hormonal difficulties. And you write, as you get to your 20s, about fast cars and loose women and parties and all that kind of hedonistic stuff. And then you get to 30 and 35 and 40, and you start thinking, well, this is undignified. You know, I can't write like a teenager anymore because I'm not. And the songs have to come from the heart, as far as I'm concerned, and not necessarily personal experience, but I think you have to feel them, you know. And so they have to come from the right place. And that's what we change. And that's one of the reasons I think Machine Head was so important, because it survived all those changes, those songs. We went through quite a few style changes, and then we had Perfect Strangers, which got us back on track. But then things started to fall apart. You know, when you've seen Spinal Tap, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's one of those things. When five guys living, traveling, sleeping, performing, it's writing together, and then all of a sudden relationships start coming into the picture. So there are third parties all around. So there's another five people, and they're constantly there. They don't want to be away. That's the new partners, new girlfriends, etc. So, and then they fall out with each other, and so there's a problem then, because they don't want to travel in the same car, and it's all that, you know, that Spinal Tap business. So this is part of growing up. You've got to deal with it, and you go over a few humps, and you go through a few valleys. But Machine Head has always stood us in good stead, and eventually you come round and you're in a good place, and you realise how important the fans are at that stage and how much they see you through the bad times, you know.
I have checked some past interviews with you, and everybody, or 90% of the interviewer, ask you about Ritchie Blackmore. So my question is, how do you feel Simon McBride plays the old songs?
Oh, first of all, Simon is a genius. He's absolutely fantastic. He's got all the energy and articulation and musical skills and creative skills that you could ever dream of. You can't compare Ritchie with Simon or with Steve Morse or with Joe Satriani, the players that we've had in the band. And I think that Ritchie has to have all the credit in the world. He's a genius. He was fantastic. I thought he was brilliant. And he was my roommate, and we partnered, and we shared a lot together. And then things, for some reason, went wrong later on. And I'm sure half of it was my fault. So those days were dim and distant. But as far as the guitar is concerned, Simon interprets these songs very, very brilliantly. And for a start off, when you're playing, Steve Morse had this same difficulty. When you're playing a well-known solo or a well-known guitar part, or any part for that matter, the thing you have to do, the trick, is to play the recognizable parts, the parts that everyone knows that are significant in that solo, and then you can freeform in between. But you've got to pick up and show respect for the song and the original record, because that's how people like it. If you meander around a bit in the solo, that's also fine. But you've got to start and end and do the bits that people know. Apart from that, Simon's approach to every song has just been to throw himself at it. You know, Steve Morse said a good thing when he joined the band, and somebody said, "How does it feel like stepping into Ritchie Blackmore's shoes?" And Steve said, "You know, I think Ritchie took his shoes with him when he left." And that applies to everyone. That applies to Simon now. So Simon's unbelievable. We're so lucky to have him. He's just amazing.
Is there any possibility for Steve Morse to get in the band again? Is the door open or not?
No. Simon is our permanent guitar player now, and we've just finished making a new record, which will come out later in the year. We won't talk about that now, but Simon is a fantastic contributor to the band. It's one of the best things that could have happened.
Tell me, do you have any special recipe to keep your voice in good shape?
Not really, other than trying to... It's very difficult. I have to take care of myself physically, so I try and stay on top of that. The singing is natural. I've been doing it all my life since I was in the church choir, and it's been a joy. I love singing, and so at the moment, you know, I'm knocking on a bit now, but hopefully we can keep going for another year or so.
Do you need to change the key or a semitone down to sing the Deep Purple songs in this moment?
No, one or two, yes, one or two. One or two of the old ones. Yeah, well, they were played in the most ridiculous keys anyway. I was screaming my nuts off. I have no intention of doing that into my 80s.
Mm-hmm. When somebody asks you about your influence or the singer you like, you name a lot from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. But in this question, I would like to focus on Stevie Wonder because it's a musical style that I consider that is far from Deep Purple. And you recorded Living for the City, Stevie Wonder song on Magic.
Yeah.
Yes. So do you remember?
Well, I came in the studio one day, the guys were playing it, so I had to sing it.
I didn't know that. I imagined that it was something that you take it on your own.
No, I don't think I've ever done that, except when we're having a talk about things. But generally speaking, I walk in the studio, something's going on, and I join in. It's that simple.
So I remember that the city of Montreux appreciate the fact that Deep Purple has made the city famous thanks to Smoke on the Water, and in 2018 the city awarded the band for this. How did you feel about that recognition?
Well, it's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. I have a special, affection in my heart for that little neck of the woods, and so it was a great honor. Yeah, I was there, and everyone was very excited, and it was a lovely atmosphere. And it's good to have recognition for something like that. But I still say the main credit goes to Claude Nobbs.
And a question that I am curious about. So, are you still in contact with some musicians who played for you in the past, like Janis Kerr or Colin Towns?
Colin's quite a quiet life now. Yes, we're in touch with Colin Towns every now and again, but he doesn't speak to me, no. Yannick I see every now and again, and yeah, you know, we move on. Steve Morris I'm very close to. I speak with him a lot. And all of the Javelins I speak to quite a lot. That's Tony Taken, Gordon Fairminer, particularly those two from the Javelins. And I speak with Roger Glover from the episode 6. Do you remember that?
Yes. And Ian, in your long musical career, what do you consider is your biggest success?
Well, it's so hard. I know it's going to prevaricate. I could pluck something out of the air right now and say Jesus Christ Superstar.
Good. And your biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake?
Yes.
Oh, that's private. I'm not telling you that. The police will be around knocking on the door.
But now that we are telling about the privacy, tell me, after touring year after year, Is Ian Gillan the man who goes home and say hello to the neighbors, or you are more like a rock star, keeping your privacy out of the paparazzi and the media?
Well, I'm very private, but I've got so many neighbors that are friends where I live most of my time in Portugal and at my house in England. I just go down to the pub or the local restaurant or into the shop, and I found this is a very easy thing to deal with. If you hide away, you attract attention that you don't want, because everyone's intrigued. Everyone wants to get a hold of you, and what's behind this mystery story. If you just go out and buy a newspaper or walk down the high street and say hello to everyone for a few weeks, after that they forget you. You're just part of the scenery, and that's how I like it. So I don't have any problem with talking to the media. That's part of the game. I mean, that's we're all helping each other in that respect. It's a professional thing. People trying to hunt you down to get salacious stories, or that's a different kind of press. That's a different kind of journalist. So I shoot them.
And it's easy to be in a band for more than 50 years.
Yeah, we've had a few days off here and there, and I think it's fantastic. I'm very proud to be the singer in Deep Purple. It's fantastic. I've always enjoyed being in a group. I enjoyed being in a choir when I was a kid, and in the other groups that I've been with, I had a solo kind of thing for a little while, but I didn't really enjoy that so much. There wasn't so much camaraderie in that thing, because you're separated all the time for one reason or another, and you can't share out the promo either. But yeah, it's easy being in a band. All you have to do is deal with, like any family, that has its ups and downs and illnesses, death, divorce, arguments, love affairs, goodness knows what. It all happens within the arena of a rock band. You couldn't get any more exciting things happening. And the people you work with too, you're working with such amazing professionals, and they support you. So quite honestly, when I leave home to go on the road, and I'm looking at this year, I'm going to Australia in a couple of weeks, and then we're on the road pretty much until November. I've just looked at the gig sheet. It's unbelievable. But to be honest, all I have to do is pack my toothbrush, and I just get out there, and I'm picked up at the airport, and I'm taken to a hotel, and I'm put in my room, and that's it. Get on with it, and we're on the road. And so I don't have to think of anything on the logistics side of things. It's a lovely family, and most of the people we work with, we've had for years. My manager, I've been with him since 1979, and yeah, it's easy. It's got to be the easiest job in the world.
Wow, Ian, thank you very much for your time. I enjoy this interview a lot.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
okay, Tony.
Yes, I hope.
Take care.
Bye bye, Ian. Have a good day.
Bye bye, Tony. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.